Right friends, welcome back to Insight. This is 5th week, 1st February to 7th February. Reserve Bank of India kept its policy rates and reserve ratios unchanged in its monetary policy on 2nd February 2016. What is monetary policy? Monetary policy is basically with regard to the circulation of money in the system. It looks at the circulation of money, and this monetary policy, Reserve Bank of India will look at it once in 2 months. That is 6 times in a financial year. What it will do? It will try to look at the demand pull inflation. If demand pull inflation is more, it will try to suck the money from circulation. If inflation is less, then it will try to infuse money or liquidity into the system. And inflation primarily takes place because of 3 reasons. One is demand pull inflation, that is because of more demand, that is due to availability of more money in circulation, that is due to more liquidity in the system, which RBI will look at in its monetary policy. The second reason for inflation is cost push inflation, that is due to the increase in the cost of raw materials or labor costs. That is the prerogative of central government. Third is due to structural deficiencies, due to improper infrastructure, no roads, no transportation facilities, no logistic facilities. Under those circumstances also inflation will take place. That is also the prerogative of central government. But the prerogative of Reserve Bank of India is with regard to demand pull inflation. Demand pull inflation is caused when there is more money in circulation, and RBI will try to suck money or infuse money through its monetary policy. And here all of you are well aware, CRR and SLR. CRR is cash reserve ratio, where the banks are expected to keep certain percentage of money in cash form. Statutory liquidity ratio is the ratio where the banks are expected to keep certain money in either cash form or in gold form or in government securities. At present, CRR is 4%, SLR is 21.5%. So, by increasing or decreasing these ratios, RBI will try to make a change in the availability of money in circulation. That means it will suck money or it will infuse liquidity depending on the inflation rate. And at the same time, policy rates are repo rate, reverse repo rate, marginal standing facility, bank rate. These are the interest rates where RBI looks at it in the monetary policy, and they give signal to the market with regard to the general interest rates. At present, repo rate is 6.75%. That is the rate which RBI charge from banks when banks borrow money for short term. So, repo rate and the other rates will give some signal with regard to the interest rates. So, the reserve ratios as well as these interest rates are basically the tools in the hands of Reserve Bank of India to control money in circulation. Right? This is all about the meaning of this statement. Look at the next one. Total deaths in India due to non-communicable diseases are 60%. What is the difference between communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases? Communicable diseases spread from one person to another person or from an animal to a person, and they are spread through airborne viruses or bacteria. Sometimes they are spread through bodily fluids also. They are infectious, contagious, that means spread from one person to other person. If you look at examples, AIDS is one such example, then malaria, tuberculosis, these are all examples of communicable diseases. And if you look at non-communicable diseases, they do not spread from one person to another, and these indicate chronic illness in a particular person itself. And they are non-infectious, non-contagious. And if you look at non-communicable diseases across the world, the biggest killer is cardiovascular diseases. The diseases of heart, they are the biggest killers in the world. and 17.5 million people, that is 1 crore 75 lakh people across the world die because of heart diseases every year. Second is cancers. Around 80 lakh people lose their lives every year because of cancer. Then respiratory diseases pertaining to lungs. Fourth one is diabetes. So, these four are major examples of non-communicable diseases, and communicable diseases I have given the examples here like AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis, etc. Right. So, this is the major differentiation between communicable diseases and non-communicable diseases. Government has ambitious plans for public investment. Railways, highways, irrigation are going to receive high priority, says Chief Economic Advisor to Government of India, Arvind Subramanian. What is the meaning of public investment? Why people are talking about public investment nowadays? Everyone talks about GDP. GDP is gross domestic product. If you are looking at any country, people will ask the first question, what is GDP? GDP in our country is at present around 7 to 7.5%. I am not going into the actual figures, but GDP primarily emanates from four issues. In any economy, four things constitute GDP. First one is private consumption. Consumption of citizens of the country is the first one. The second one is private investment. Private corporate investment is the second driver. The investment by private persons, whether it is by big corporates or small corporates, it does not matter. But the private investment is another factor which is responsible for increase in GDP. Third one is public expenditure. Public expenditure is the expenditure which government spends on highways, railways, ports, irrigation. This is public expenditure that is spent by government. Fourth one is exports. So, these four are basically responsible for increase in GDP. But in our country for the past 1 year, the GDP is primarily driven by private consumption, that means consumption because of high population. Second is public expenditure. Public expenditure is expenditure by the government and by its public sector undertakings. So, these two are primary drivers during the past 1 year, and private investment is not taking off on the expected lines, and private investment and exports, these two are the worst performance during the past several months. Exports, if you look at it during the year 2015-16, they have fallen by around 17 to 18% in comparison to last year, and private investment is also not taking off. So, under these circumstances, what government has to do? Government has to go for more public expenditure. If government spends more on roads, railways, ports, irrigation, then what will happen? Private investment will also crowd in. In cases of economic downturn, the main action taken by governments is increase public expenditure, and subsequently what will happen? Private investment will crowd in. So, the right thing which is to be done by government at this juncture is, please go for more public expenditure. So, this is the meaning of the statement of Chief Economic Advisor to Government of India, Arvind Subramanian. So, if someone talks about GDP, please don't forget the private consumption, private investment, public expenditure, exports. In India during 2015-16, only two sectors are faring better and two sectors are not faring up to the mark. India ratified the insurance pooling arrangement 5 years after India signed the Convention on Supplementary Compensation in Vienna on 4th February. Here I would like to introduce two terms. One is the nuclear operator. Nuclear operator is Nuclear Power Corporation of India Limited. If you look at India, in India, nuclear operator is NPCIL, right? That is Government of India enterprise. And nuclear suppliers. Nuclear suppliers means they may be suppliers of nuclear fuel or nuclear equipment. They are basically foreigners. If you look at the examples are GE Hitachi, Westinghouse, these are nuclear suppliers. And we brought Civil Liability for Nuclear Damages Act of 2010. Civil Liability Nuclear Damages Act of 2010. And as per this act, under section 17B, if any major nuclear accident takes place, the compensation or liability can be channeled from the operator to the supplier. So, I have already told you suppliers are foreign firms, operator is NPCIL. So, as per clause 17B of this Civil Liability for Nuclear Damages Act, the clause says the liability or damages for nuclear accident can be channeled from the operator to the supplier, right. So, the damage lies on supplier account, which foreign firms are objecting for so many years. And at the same time, as per this act, as per CLNDA 2010, section 46 says that the victims of nuclear accident can sue the operator or the supplier. So, if some nuclear accident takes place, under section 46 of CLNDA 2010, the victims can sue the operator or the supplier. So, these two clauses specifically says nuclear supplier is also responsible and he can be sued for paying the liabilities or penalties. But under these circumstances, government ratified insurance pooling arrangement in Vienna. That means as per this ratification, the supplier, that means foreign firms, cannot be sued for damages. CLNDA 2010 says the supplier can be sued, but India ratified insurance pooling arrangement in Vienna, which contravenes the provisions of CLNDA. And under these circumstances, the CLNDA is to be amended suitably. So, there are news reports that government signed this or ratified this insurance pooling arrangement at Vienna, which contravenes the provisions of CLNDA 2010. Now, the course of action in front of government is to amend CLNDA, right. In case of any nuclear accident, the damages will run into billions of dollars, and suppliers, that is foreign firms, are objecting for several years that they should not be liable to pay compensation in case of nuclear accident. Right friends, look at the next one. Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe says that there is a need to have summit meeting to solve the issue of Kuril Islands. Actually, these Kuril Islands is the bone of contention between Japan and Russia. Kuril Islands form a volcanic archipelago stretching around 1300 kilometers. Please look into this. They stretch from mainland of Japan to mainland of Russia. This is the Kuril Islands. This is abutting Pacific Ocean. One side it is the Sea of Okhotsk and the other side Pacific Ocean. And these islands, there are 56 islands. There is no dispute with regard to 52 islands. But there is a dispute with regard to 4 islands only abutting Japan. And Japan calls them as Northern Territories. And in the year 1855, Treaty of Shimoda was signed between Russia and Japan, and due to which the ownership of these islands will go to Japan and remaining islands will go to Russia. That means ownership of these 4 islands will go to Japan. But after World War II, all of you are well aware, in World War II, Japan was badly defeated, and after World War II, Russia took control of these islands by deporting 17,000 Japanese nationals, and from that date onwards, this Kuril Islands, that is 4 islands abutting Japan, became the bone of contention between Russia and Japan, because of which Russia and Japan have not signed the peace treaty also. So, if someone says Kuril Islands, they are abutting Pacific Ocean. One side it is the Sea of Okhotsk and the other side Pacific Ocean, and they are the bone of contention between Japan and Russia. Look at the last one. 4 new vaccines were added to Mission Indradhanush, taking the total to 11. This Mission Indradhanush was launched with a view to increase immunization coverage. In our country, the immunization coverage is just 65%. And the government's intention is every year it should be increased by 5%. And within 5 years, the immunization coverage should reach 90%. With that in view, government launched this Mission Indradhanush, and initially 7 diseases were covered. I have given the list here: diphtheria, pertussis, tetanus, childhood TB, polio, hepatitis B and measles. And now 4 more vaccines are added, that is inactivated polio vaccine, adult Japanese encephalitis, then rotavirus, then measles rubella vaccine. So, these 4 are added now. Let us conclude the insight. Please do join for other modules. Have a nice day. Thank you.